Hello, guys. So, the question I want to answer today is what do you mean by I am desire and I do not need? So, this phrase, I am desire and I do not need, is one I spoke for a long time. It's still present in me, just not something I'm reminding myself of, but I spoke it for a while as a way of bringing a certain way of seeing to consciousness. And so, this person is asking, what do I mean by this? What do you mean by I am desire and I do not need? So, I'll explain. What I see happening for a lot of people, probably because I saw it happening for myself, is a coming to understand and appreciate how a longing for something, a wanting for something, a needing of something, maybe a desiring of something, can be the cause of internal suffering and anguish. Wanting something other than what is creates internal conflict and issues, attachment, right? And so there are many teachings that say, and ideas that say, letting go of attachment, of needs, of wants, of desires is how you can be at peace in the present moment. And then at that same time, a lot of people are not only on this spiritual path of creating a kind of groundedness and a well-being inside them and a peace with what is in this moment inside them, but they're also living in a material world and they want to create things in the material world. There is wanting, and it starts to feel confusing because this feeling of wanting feels so innate and in some ways feels right, because isn't that what life is? And then at the same time you're being told that wanting is the problem and it's going to take you away from peace. And so I see people either not going all in and creating that peace, or going all in and creating peace and then bastardizing and wronging wanting. And I think that the important thing is to create some more subtle nuance and distinction around this, and this is what this phrase was representing for me. I am desire and I do not need. And so what I was saying to myself, and what I say to myself when I say that, is that desire is actually what I am. And when I use the word desire, I'm using it in its most immediate and natural sense. The impulse of an animal to move towards food, the impulse of an animal to move towards something sexually, that feeling that fires inside the body, that instantaneous response of a movement towards anything, that's desire, okay? And that is how the whole universe got here. The movement of atoms towards or each other, any attractive force, that's desire. Magnets, that's desire. That's the universe, right? Gravity, that's desire. Things attracting and moving towards each other. It is how everything came to be, and it's natural. And with humans, with our consciousness, with our capacity to think and imagine a reality other than the one that is right now, which we can access through our sensory experience. As an aside, I don't really see current reality and imagined reality as completely distinct, but it's a very, very useful way of experiencing reality to make them distinct. So anyway, back to the point. In this imagined version of reality, if we take the impulse of desire, a feeling of wanting something, and we don't act on it, but instead we allow it to become part of an imagined reality, so we start to see in our mind, and through chronological time and our psychology of our mind, through the imagined time, we start to see that thing that we desire, and we start to have an experience living inside of our mind, which is alternate to the one that's actually happening right now. We create this separation. We start to create this tension. There's the reality I have in my mind that I want, I'm daydreaming one, and then there's the reality that is. And it creates distance. And that distance between the now and the imagined, that's what I refer to as need. So I refer to the immediate, spontaneous, initial impulse of desire as desire, and I refer to the desire that is the result of projecting that moment that was achieved through sensory experience into psychological time as an imagined reality. I call that need. So desire plus time equals need. That's how I'm using the words. And I am desire and I do not need is really a reminder to myself that that impulse, that feeling, that sudden bang, that wanting in the beginning, before time, that's what I am. I am the impulse of creation. I am creation creating itself. I am the big bang of the universe, still banging on, still moving particles towards other particles. Just like the planets coming together, that's me. And so if I'm, as a married man, driving on the street and I see a woman and I feel something that's not my wife, and I feel something in my body, like boom, that's the universe creating through me. If I then take that feeling and I use it in my mind to start to imagine my life with her instead of with my wife, and that starts to create an attraction towards that, that starts to become what I would call a need version of desire. And not only that, but because it's a woman other than my wife, then I started to create the internal conflict between, oh, now I'm getting caught up in this imagined reality versus the one with my wife. That's the right one, that's the wrong one. And then I create another version of myself as the right person versus the wrong person who's having that. And then all these various images about things versus other things start to get created, and that's how it gets very messy and very complex way very quickly. But if I, in that moment, I act on that desire when it comes up about another woman, then instead of it becoming something that becomes projected in my mind and creates a need and attachment and all sorts of conflict, it's gone. So what do I mean by act on it? Does that mean I stop the car and pull over and talk to her? No, to act on a desire is to really acknowledge it and to either embody it and express it and have some behavior or some words, or to acknowledge it by letting it move through me all the way completely and out the other side. When I experience some desire, most desires that I experience, I would say 99% of desires that I experience, I act on them by doing nothing. It's the action of non-action, but it's very different than holding it in my mind as something wanted but not attained. That's not inaction. That's like avoidance, which is a kind of suppression, which creates imagery that's in conflict with the present moment. That becomes an attachment. So intentionally, consciously saying no to it, that's not part of what is true for me in all areas of my spiritual conscious intention for the world, right? There's different parts of our body that have different agency and where they create desire. We have our stomach. There's desire that comes from that. Hunger. Just because I'm hungry doesn't mean I'm going to pick this plastic lens cap up and eat it, right? There's other things, because I have my mind to have a conversation with that. So I'm not going to act on my sexual organs desire. I'm not going to act on my stomach's desire. I'm not going to act on my heart's desire all the time necessarily either. I'm not going to act on the desire of my brain. You could go from a chakra, like just because its chakra head is a desire to say something, there's also the heart. And so I'm always referencing the coherence of everything when I'm feeling the impulse of desire. And I'm trying to make decisions as to whether I act on that outwardly, that are coherent with everything, with all of who I experience that I am, or whether I act on that inwardly by just allowing it to pass through me. The important point here is that there is a way to acknowledge the desire to create, the impulse to create, our intuitions, our heart, our stomach, our sexual organs, our mind, all of it. The impulse to create, to move towards, is actually what we are. And if that's the case, then acting on it, either through embodying it or through saying no thank you and letting it move through, just like a cloud moves by, that is the only way to not actually add psychological time and turn it into a projected image that actually creates a longing, an attachment, a conflict between the reality in our minds that we're carrying versus the reality that is. That's what creates suffering. When they say desire is the cause of all suffering, I believe that they mean desire plus time is the cause of all suffering. When you carry desire in your mind, and instead of letting it pass through you or be acted out externally, then that is what creates suffering, because it creates a conflict between what reality is and what you're experiencing in your head, in your whole body. But here's the crazy thing too. If desire is what I am, then fear is what I am as well. So in the same way that I say I am desire and I do not need, and by the way, I do not need is actually a statement of my choice around what I do with desire. So it's not I do not need as a description that I'm the person that's not needing. It's I do not needing. I am desire and I do the act of not needing, which is I am desire and I either let go or I take action. But back to the other point, I am fear and I do not need. I am fear and I do not need. I'm going to actually leave that with you and have you contemplate, based on everything that I said around desire, what would it be like if it were also true that I am fear? Can you see how there's actually immense freedom in realizing that you actually, in the same way that you are desire, you are fear? I'd be curious to hear what you think about that. Today is the perfect day for you to create who you are, and being part of Creators Class and the conversation in the creating community, and watching Creators Class over and over again and dissecting the insights and bringing them into your life through action. It's the most powerful way to learn to be a creator of everything and anything you want in your life. I love you so much simply for your being here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.